For those of us in radio and television, the thought of doing a whole show about silence and not talking, what a nightmare.
We don't want dead air, do we?
No.
But in today's Taiwan Insider, we're going to take you to the world's first urban quiet park right here in Taipei. I'm Natalie So.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. Let's start off with a look at the stories on our radar.
On Saturday, people in the southern city of Kaohsiung voted to recall their mayor. KMT politician Han Kuo-yu won the race for mayor in 2018, but the city soured on him when he took time off to run for president. At Han's urging, many supporters stayed away from the polls, hoping that low turnout would make the vote fail to meet the required threshold. The vote passed anyway, with 97.4% in favor of Han's ouster. The cabinet will now appoint a temporary mayor until a by-election can be held in September. The head of Yilan County has invited President Tsai to land on the Diaoyutai Islands and plan to sign declaring them part of the county. That's as a Japanese city that also claims the islands prepares to vote on changing their official Japanese name. Tsai has reiterated Taiwan's sovereignty over the islands and called for a peaceful resolution of the dispute. One of Taiwan's biggest religious events is back on again. The annual Dajia Mazu pilgrimage through central Taiwan set off on Thursday. But the number of participants has been sharply reduced due to concerns about COVID-19, and everyone has to wear surgical masks. Domestic airlines are seeing a surge in demand in the run-up to summer. That's with COVID-19 keeping international travel off the table. There's been a particular surge in interest in Taiwan's outlying islands, prompting domestic carriers to add tens of thousands of seats on popular routes. And under the radar this week, Hualien's Yuli Township is offering visitors a new way to enjoy its beauty by creating images in its fields, such as of Taiwan and a bear paw, as the rice fields near their harvest time.
And now for our words of the week. Ready to guess, Andrew?
Yes. Happy.
Happy today?
Cars. Casual. Calm.
Calm.
I like it.
Calm down. No, just kidding.
Hard for me.
So we've been talking about our first urban quiet park in the world, and that's a great place to calm the mind and the heart.
Love it. That's a fantastic word. I'm just going to
Yes.
stare at that for the rest of the show. Ready for my word?
Yes.
All right. I had to use
Wow, that's a long one.
I had to use a very small font because I have
Collective.
a lot of letters.
Continuous, contemporary, contemptuous? No.
Contemptuous.
Contemplative. Contemplation.
Contemplation.
These two go together.
They do. Two C words that have to do with the world's first urban quiet park. Now, some people are saying, are we avoiding all of the bad news when we go out into the quiet of the park? Actually, no, those parks, those silent parks, they offer us room for contemplation so we can come back with a clear mind.
Great. Let's put these on the shelf.
Last Saturday, voters in Kaohsiung did something that's never been done before in Taiwan. They recalled their mayor. Now, Kaohsiung Mayor Han Kuo-yu is one of the biggest stars in the KMT. He's also the first KMT mayor in Kaohsiung in 20 years. But last weekend, just a year and a half into his term, he's out of a job.
Now, why did the people turn against him? Well, I spoke with Fulbright Scholar Lev Nachman, who's in Taiwan studying Taiwan politics, to get some insight.
There's a few different reasons. The one that a lot of media is talking about is Han's connections with China and how kind of the China factor has really turned people against him. And that's true to an extent, but that's not nearly as big of a factor, in my opinion, as Han himself as a politician. How much he has blundered, disappointed, failed to really enact any sort of good governance in Kaohsiung since he became elected. He himself was not able to actually fulfill any of the promises he made as mayor. He infamously took 4 months off from being mayor to run for president.
Right, that was one of the main, issues
main grievances
that
people
right.
had. And then, of course, it's no secret that most of his economic plans were to increase trade with China. His meeting in Hong Kong with PRC officials last year made this incredibly obvious. And even though Han Kuo-yu himself has said that he rejects one country, two systems, supports the Hong Kong protesters, by him going to Hong Kong, meeting with Carrie Lam, meeting with PRC officials, it really sends mixed messages. The other really important factor behind the recall vote, though, and this cannot be overstated, is how much the organization We Care, that's the name of the organization, mobilized so much of the city. They have been campaigning ever since Han Kuo-yu began to run for president, the city of Kaohsiung to express their discontent with him.
So do you think he still has a certain appeal among a certain population of KMT supporters?
I think he did. The big question is, what does the average voter look like after COVID? Because a lot of people who before would never say something nice about Tsai Ing-wen suddenly have a lot of nice things to say about Tsai Ing-wen.
Right.
Good governance does a lot for a politician's reputation. And a lot of moderate to light blue voters who might not enthusiastically support Tsai Ing-wen before might be a little bit more inclined to vote for someone like her in the future. Now, whether or not that's going to translate into voting for the DPP in the future, we'll see. Unfortunately, the next election is still 2 years away, and in Taiwanese politics times, that's a lifetime. So who knows what's going to possibly happen between now and then. But I think there is definitely, at this very moment now, a bit of a shift into public support for DPP versus KMT.
When you were in Kaohsiung, what was the mood there?
Very happy.
Very happy.
It was very moving. Considering in today's world, so many democracies seem so dysfunctional, that Kaohsiung, Taiwan, of all places, to be the one place where people turn up to vote and proper democratic transition happens, that's not contested. I hope Taiwan can be a new trendsetter.
Once again, that was Fulbright Scholar Lev Nachman. He is also a PhD candidate at UC Irvine. His specialty is Taiwan's small parties. Now, if you'd like to see the full interview, it's available on Facebook and YouTube.
While most of the people of Taiwan were focused on a noisy recall in Kaohsiung last weekend, there was another group of people on a mountain in Taipei celebrating the silence.
Last Friday on World Environment Day, Quiet Parks International designated Yangmingshan National Park, which is right here in Taipei's backyard, as the world's first urban quiet park. So what's so great about silence and quiet? I'm going to let my friend Matt Mickelson from Quiet Parks International explain it to you himself.
Natural quiet, or the ability to listen to nature without noise pollution, is becoming harder and harder. The vast majority of people living in the world today are exposed to unhealthy quantities of noise pollution. There are very, very few places left on planet Earth where you can listen to just the sounds of nature for more than 15 minutes at a time. And those places are vanishing very quickly. Quiet Parks International is the first and only organization committed to the preservation of quiet for the benefit of all living beings. Being able to listen to nature without the impacts of noise pollution connects us to the world as it was. Natural quiet is a resource that's really important for all humans, but also for wildlife. It's really important that wildlife have acoustically pristine environments that they can communicate in. Our hope is that we can create a few places in every country that people can go to experience natural quiet. We hope to not only help the local communities preserve these places and to help mitigate sources of noise pollution, but also to draw tourism to these areas to experience the quiet. Quiet is a resource, and if we don't do something to protect it now, it'll be much harder in the future to regain what we've lost.
Andrew, I think every city needs an urban quiet park.
Absolutely.
We all need a place to calm our hearts and minds. So I heard there's a lot of cities around the world that are planning urban quiet parks. Why was Yangmingshan the first?
That's a great question, and I think for the answer we should turn to the co-founder of Quiet Parks International, who's this guy called Gordon Hempton, and he's a world-renowned recorder of natural sounds. He actually came to Taiwan in 2018. He went up to Yangmingshan. He even brought us around to listen to the sounds that he heard. And here's what he had to say about Taiwan becoming the location of the world's first urban quiet park.
The reason why the world's first urban quiet park is in Taiwan. Why not New York, London, Paris, Stockholm, and other places that have expressed an interest in this? And the answer to that is the fast response and quick recognition of the fundamental value of what silence offers, and offers in the way of creativity, clarity, and knowing what the future should hold. So thank you very much for this great honor to be the sponsoring nonprofit organization of this quiet park, and we look forward to 50 more or even greater urban quiet parks within the next decade, but it all starts here. Congratulations.
So Andrew, last Friday on World Environment Day, you got to go on a silent trail?
That's right. They brought us up onto this trail in Yangmingshan, and it was an eye-opening, and I should say maybe ear-opening experience. But rather than explain it to you, I actually went and shot some video. So
Great.
I'm going to allow you to see it and hear it for yourself.
There's
a 1.5 kilometer hike ahead of us up this mountain. This is Lev Nachman, the founder of the Soundscape Association of Taiwan and a tireless advocate for silence in nature. Today she's bringing us along a silent trail in the world's first urban quiet park, Yangmingshan National Park, right here in Taipei's backyard. Our destination is Menghuan Pond. It got the name Menghuan, or dreamy, because of the beautiful mists that often enshroud the area. Along this silent path, you'll see signs encouraging people to remain quiet. It's not just to offer a meditative listening experience for the humans, it's good for the birds and the animals too. This is a quote by sound tracker Gordon Hempton. Silence is the think tank of the soul. As we venture silently up the path, the encumberments of the city slowly fall away, and we begin to hear the sounds of nature. And the views from the path are stunning too, like this volcanic mountain, which hints at Yangmingshan's dramatic origins. When we arrive at Menghuan Pond, I ask Lev Nachman about the significance of Yangmingshan becoming the world's first urban quiet park.
台湾这个岛屿其实本身也是经过了很多很复杂的历史。那我们的很多声音其实不被世界聆听得到，但是我们愿意让这样的自然宁静保护下来，也期待未来有更多的人能够来到台湾这个岛屿，听见我们所保护的自然宁静。那我觉得台湾有这样子的一个条件，有这样的能力，我们其实相对安全，但是我们希望我们能够用我们的行动鼓舞这世界上更多的人去听见这个土地的声音，不要再执着在人跟人之间的彼此的对立，而是那种尊重、包容，为更大的这样子大自然的存在而保护，听见这样的声音，勇敢而坚毅地走下去。这是我觉得台湾成为全世界都会宁静公园可以对世界的一个贡献。
And what kind of sounds do we hear up at Menghuan Pond?
那个叫鹪鸪，灰头鹪鸪，它的声音，它是在灌虫，你会听到它的声音，就像是一个有接续的这样，滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴滴。好，咦，那是红嘴黑背的声音，然后那个是白头翁的声音，这样，好，滴滴滴滴，灰头鹪鸪。那咩，这个有点像猫咪的声音，叫做红嘴黑背。然后给给给，这叫副班蛙。所以短短的时间，当你学会聆听，这不是我一个人，只要你愿意聆听，你会发现，就算你看不见他们， 你也知道有这么多的生命是围绕在你的身边，而你跟他们共同存在在这样的一个环境里。
Yangmingshan National Park is the world's first urban quiet park, and Quiet Parks International is hoping that it's the first of 50 such parks in the next decade.
In this week's Taiwan by Number, I'm going to be testing Natalie and Andrew to see how much they know about Yangmingshan National Park. Do you guys know anything about Yangmingshan National Park?
You were just there last weekend.
Yes, I know a little.
Pressure's on, Andrew.
I don't know any numbers. Let's just put it that way.
All right, let's start off with something a little more basic. Let's start off with some history, all right? So first question is, when and what year did Yangmingshan National Park, as we know it today, become established?
Ooh.
What year?
1950.
1963.
Okay, those are two very good answers. Let's have a look at the real answer, though.
Oh my gosh, that late?
That seems very late, right? However, I do have to say that was when the new administration took it over and reestablished it as a national park, the park we know it today. During Japanese colonial time, the Japanese administration actually had Yangmingshan National Park, except that back then it was called Datun National Park.
Datun National Park, that's the name of one of the mountains.
Yes, it's very different. If you take a look at the map over here, this is the original Japanese national park, and if you'll see, actually, 7-star mountain, Qixing-san on the top right, that's the highest peak of Yangmingshan right now, was not included in the original national park. Wow. What in the original national park, they actually had Guanningshan, which is over closer to Danshui.
Oh, on the other side of the river.
That's right.
It looks like it almost comes all the way to RTI.
It almost does, right? It almost does. All right, so inside Yangmingshan, there's something called the Datun Volcano Group, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a bunch of volcanoes within Yangmingshan.
I didn't know that.
According to national park authorities, how many volcanoes are there inside Yangmingshan National Park?
Oh my goodness.
How about 8?
Wow, that was a quick and
Lucky
decisive
number.
answer. I'll say, I don't know, 88? Is that too much?
Let's have a look at the answer right here.
20
plus. And actually, that number is kind of disputed because 20 only includes the volcanoes that you can really discern from the outside. Using laser-guided technology, some experts say there are as many as 51 volcanoes within Yangmingshan National Park.
Yeah, they're not active, are they?
That's actually disputed. Actually, a few news stories came out last year saying that they might still be active. There's still like a pulse that they can detect, and there are lava deposits underneath.
Oh, Leslie, don't tell us that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I'm sorry.
It is interesting. It's very interesting, but it's like one more thing to add to my nightmares.
I mean, if you look at the picture that we just showed you, they had Xiaoyokun, and that was kind of like a sulfur vent, right? And that's actually very indicative of just how much seismic activity and volcanic activity is there.
Really?
Some steam and smoke coming out of it.
That's what it is.
Interesting.
All right, guys. Last question. Do you guys know how many hiking trails there are in the Yangmingshan National Park?
Oh my goodness, there's got to be a ton.
It's not as many as you think. Actually, this isn't the actual question. I'll tell you, there are actually 16 that are open to the public. But here's the final question: is that if you put the length of all of those hiking trails together, how long is it in kilometers?
Ooh, I would say maybe 121.
121?
I'll say 150.
150? Let's take a look at the answer right here.
Oh, 70. We overguessed ourselves.
Just 70. But the thing is, a lot of people feel like it's a lot longer because it goes up and down and left and right.
You really get lost. Like, I think the distance and time kind of just disappears in the mountains, which I think is amazing.
That's the attraction of the mountains, right?
Absolutely.
It's a charm.
Lose yourself.
It's a beautiful place, and it's a place that you can learn a lot about. And that's all we have for this week's Taiwan by Number. This week on #Taiwan, in honor of Yangmingshan National Park in Taipei being designated as the world's first urban quiet park, I want to talk to you about ornithology. Now, for those of you who don't speak science, I of course mean birds. According to national park authorities, Yangmingshan is home to about 138 species of birds. So if you ever find yourself up there, make sure to keep your eyes open to see how many of our feathered friends you can find. Now, people can make social media accounts for any number of reasons. It's particularly useful for people who want to share collections of very specific things that interest them. Former consulting producer of Taiwan Insider Emily Wu actually has an entire Instagram account dedicated to sharing manhole cover designs. Now that's not my thing, but if you think you'd like that, you can have that one for free. Back to the topic of birds. This Twitter account is called Taiwan Birds, and at first glance you might think it's a Twitter account dedicated to bird watching in Taiwan, and if that's what you thought, well, you're not wrong at all. But while Richard, the person who runs the account, does focus on birds, he doesn't just show you the birds, he actually makes them relatable. As Andrew Ryan once told me, you wouldn't think much more of birds beyond, they're up in the sky. But I dare you to take a look at this picture and tell me you haven't felt the exact same thing this bird is feeling on any given Monday where you had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning when you full well know you went to sleep after 2 a.m. This is memeing on an entirely different level. Richard uses pictures of his birds to motivate, commentate, and educate. How does he motivate? He shares a picture of a bird fighting off a snake, of course. How does he commentate? He shares his opinion on current events and slaps on a related picture of a bird at the end. How does he educate? He tells people to wear masks and shows you a picture of a black-faced spoonbill, which looks like it's already wearing a mask. But every picture that Richard shares is absolutely stunning. It really makes you appreciate Taiwan's biodiversity. Taiwan is home to over 600 species of birds, 29 of which can only be found in the country. It's nice to know that someone out there is not only appreciating them, but also sharing them in a way that resonates with everybody else. I think Richard describes his own account the best with this tweet. The country for good news, Taiwan, and a couple of birds. Do check out Taiwan Birds on Twitter. It's a great way to appreciate Taiwan and brush up on your ornithology with the featherless ape, Richard F.
Now it's time for our lightning round news quiz, and you can play along at home if you like. I'd like to see if these two guys have been paying attention this week.
Yeah, if we don't know anything, can we do a call out?
50-50, ask the audience.
Okay, you guys have 60 seconds to answer as many questions as you can. Ready, go. What travel subsidy does a Taiwan citizen get beginning July?
Domestic travel subsidy.
Right.
Hotels.
How much?
3,000.
For one room.
1,000.
700 for a room?
1,000 for one room if you're traveling alone.
Okay.
On your own.
Yeah, we don't get those. I mean, I don't, so I don't know.
What big religious festival began today?
Manzu procession.
That's right, in a streamlined way, right? It was
Yes.
postponed. How often do Taiwan health officials now hold COVID-19
Once a week.
briefings?
Good.
Good.
Wednesdays.
On this year's high school entrance exam essay, what kind of shop would most junior high school students like
Coffee
to
shop.
open?
Coffee,
You're
yeah,
right.
cafe. That's a good one.
What percentage of Kaohsiung residents voted in the recall vote on Saturday?
42%.
That's right. You guys are doing great today.
Yeah.
What entered Taiwan airspace on Tuesday?
An American
Jet
aircraft.
plane.
And what else?
And a
Chinese
Chinese
one.
aircraft.
Yes, Chinese and both military planes. Who gets to travel to Turtle Mountain Island for free?
Anybody who has the character for turtle in their name.
That's right. You guys get manfun.
Oh,
And we got
yeah.
all of them
100%
right
today. Very good.
What's our prize, Natalie?
Well, you guys get to watch a video about Turtle Island.
Awesome.
It's like a scene from a movie. The tiny Ganxiang Island, which is named for its turtle-like shape. In 2000, Taiwan opened the island for tourism. Visitors can take a boat out to see the dolphins or set foot on the island and explore the lush natural scenery. Today, Ganxiang Island is uninhabited, but that wasn't always the case. Before 1977, there were close to 200 families living there. The government even built a school for the local children, but the authorities relocated Ganxiang Island's residents to Taiwan proper for safety reasons. In 1994, 100 fishing boats transported the former residents back to their island home so that they could pay tribute to their ancestors. Now, the former residents of Ganxiang Island are being invited home again, this time to celebrate 2 decades of tourism. Graduates of Ganxiang Island's school, as well as military conscripts and medical workers who lived on the island, will gather there on August 1st. Now that Taiwan has lifted coronavirus-related travel restrictions, people are eager to make the trip to see Ganxiang Island, even before the official anniversary takes place later this summer.
Thanks so much for joining us for this inside look at Taiwan this week. Be sure to connect with us on social media.
Yes, leave a comment below. We would love to hear from you. For Taiwan Insider, I am Natalie So.
I'm Leslie Liao.
And I'm Andrew Ryan. See you next week.